And we now go to item 4.4. It is a resolution proclaiming the week of June 22nd as Goodman, Chaney, Schwerner Memorial Voting Rights Week and recognizing the 50th anniversary of their assassinations and supporting continued expansion of voter access and participation in the City of Oakland. And we need an urgency finding.
Who's going to? Mr. Cobb, would you?
So moved.
Okay. Moved by Ms. Kaplan, seconded by Ms. That's just for the urgency finding.
That is correct.
Right.
Good evening, everybody. So can I start with a reverend, a bishop, and a rabbi walked into a council chambers and good evening, and I want to thank my colleagues, Councilmember Dan Kalb, Councilmember Lynette McElhaney, as we stand here together. Tonight we are honoring the 50th anniversary of the deaths and, frankly, the assassinations of 3 civil rights workers who were working on voting rights when they were murdered for that act, Andrew Goodman, James Chaney, and Mickey Schwerner. And this coming week is the 50th anniversary of their deaths. And so, you know, how I was raised, the way you honor the life of someone who has passed, is that you lift up the good works that they did in their life and commit to carrying those good works forward. And so I'm very pleased to be joined by all of you and also to announce an event on Tuesday, June 24th at 12:15 at the Federal Building, which is right behind City Hall. There will be a public memorial to honor their lives as well. And so I wanted to share that with all of you. And also just to share, and I will pass this along for others if they want to add a word, that the fight for voting rights is not over, that the effort to suppress the vote, to enact new laws to take away the vote continue, and that our effort to be vigilant and to fight back for voting rights for all must continue. And so we should not let the murder of these 3 young men deter us, but actually to spur us forward, as well as the recent attacks in other states against voting rights. In California, you now can register to vote online. You can go to the Secretary of State's website in California and register to vote. So I want to encourage everybody. Part of how we can lift up their work is to register everyone we know to vote who hasn't registered to vote. And of course, we need to continue the effort to restore voting rights for formerly incarcerated persons to have their voting rights restored as well, that struggle too is not over. And lastly, I just want to say that I grew up attending Orthodox Hebrew school as a child, all day, every day from age 4. And so usually when we learned history, we learned Jewish history. And so some might think, well, then how did you learn as an 8, 9, 10-year-old about the civil rights struggle and the voting rights struggle? But I learned as a very young child about the murder of these 3 young men and what they were fighting for and what they were standing up for. And I have always seen that as part of the legacy that we have to carry forward. And I was particularly reminded of this when Ronald Reagan launched his campaign for the president in Philadelphia, Mississippi, where he went to stand on their graves to try to take their deaths as a sign of his right-wing badge of what he stood for. So the struggle continues. We honor and remember Andrew Goodman, James Chaney, Michael, also known as Mickey Schwerner, and we commit ourselves to continuing the struggle for justice and voting rights for all. So thank you for that. Amen.
You've said it well, President Pro Tem, but we who believe in freedom cannot rest. Ella Baker said, we who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. So in this place, in this city, at this time, as we fight for wage justice, as we fight for clean energy or clean communities, for safe neighborhoods, we continue this work of these brave young men who were but babies in our eyes in many ways, but who stood up for our democracy and for our rights. And so I am proud to stand with these men of faith and with my colleagues to say that their deaths were not in vain, and let our living be so as important and as impactful.
I'll just briefly add, first of all, thank you, both my colleagues, and thank you all for being here. This should be a celebration, even though these were 3, like you said, murders, assassinations 50 years ago. It's a celebration of the effort that they've made and the successes we've had, and the remembrance that we still have more successes to come. While maybe in California we're doing a little better in other states, some of the states in the past 3 years, some of the what do you call them, right-wingers, some of the folks in the past 3 years in other states that have been going back in time, it's like, did I wake up in Alice in Wonderland 50 years ago? Is that what we're fighting this again? I mean, some of the things that are happening in other states, or trying to happen in other states, to reduce voter turnout, to make it harder to vote, is reminiscent of what we thought we got rid of close to 50 years ago. So, you know, what comes around goes around, sadly, so that the battle of victory is great, but you always have to, you know, re-engage and continue that victory and always fight to keep it. And that's what we learn almost every week, and so that's why we're here today, to express our appreciation for the hardworking people. When I was just a baby when the civil rights movement was getting started, but appreciation for the hardworking people of all backgrounds in all parts of the country who worked so hard and in some cases gave their lives so we could have some improvement. Like we said, we still have more to go, but we've made significant progress in the past 50 years, and we will continue to make more progress as we move forward. So we have our persons of faith here to say a few words.
Thank you. I'm Bishop Watkins, and I am the pastor of Jack London Square Chapel, Church of God in Christ. And I remember when this happened. I was about 19 years old, and we were outraged that these young men were murdered going down a back road, took a wrong turn, and came up in a town that was full of the KKK. And we were so outraged, we were very angry here in Oakland. But, you know, with their death came the Voting Right Act of 1965, and in 65, it became apparent that not only was the voting rights, was the Civil Rights Act of 65 and the Voting Rights Act of 64 out of their deaths. So when it comes down to voting, let everyone go out and be heard. Be heard. Put out your vote. Give your vote. Have your voice heard, because these young men died for that. And I'm the founder of Overcomers of Hope, OWH Studios, which teaches broadcast television to at-risk youth, and we just opened it up to veterans. And what you do is, we want to make sure that the word gets out that there is a vote. Be sure and vote. Whoever you're in your district, and this is Oakland, get your vote out. Thank you. And this proclamation will hang in our hall at the Marcus Garvey building, where Marcus Garvey and Father Divine and all the others who were pioneers in the black community worked out of that building at 8th and Chester. It's called Liberty Hall. Come and visit that building. But this proclamation will hang with the other men and women of this great city and who created Oakland. Thank you.
My name is Rabbi Michael Rothbaum. I'm an Oakland resident, and I'm here representing Bend the Ark, a Jewish partnership for justice representing thousands of Jews across the country who believe in the power of spirit and the power of action and hands and feet to work and to march towards justice, not just for Jews, but for everybody. Mickey and Andrew and James were cut down. They were slaughtered, buried in the Mississippi mud. The main witness who saw that was a witness called Hate. They were killed, number one, for who they are, and they are not the first men who fertilized the ground, the first Jewish men, the first African men who fertilized the ground in the name of hate. But they were also killed not just for who they are and who they were, but for what they stood for, an idea that stretches from Jerusalem through Selma to this room, the idea that is represented in our people's and all of our people's Bible. When the Israelites gather at the base of the mountain and they have the opportunity to receive teaching, and they say in the Hebrew words, na'aseh v'nishma, they say, we will do and we will hear. The idea that these men died for is the we. we will do and we will hear. That thread stretches all the way from that moment through we the people. There is no community. There is no blessed community. There is no holy people without that we. If we say my voice counts and your voice doesn't, or your voice counts and his doesn't, or hers doesn't, because she comes from sharecroppers, or because her parents are from Sinaloa, or because his family is from Eastern Europe, once we say your vote counts and yours doesn't, we lose the we lose any claim we have to righteousness, to authority. I am so grateful that this body has stood up and said, we believe that the Voting Rights Act and that the voice of every people counts. I hope, I pray that that clarion call reaches from this body to the hearts of every member of the Supreme Court, to every senator, to every member of the House of Representatives, to the President. May it continue to ring from this day forth to every moment forth. Thank you so much for this opportunity and for this resolution.
My name is Reverend Daniel Buford. I'm a minister at the Allen Temple Baptist Church. There at the Allen Temple Baptist Church, I am the minister of prophetic justice, which deals with social justice issues. I just wanted to, first of all, thank and commend the Oakland City Council for being steadfast in holding up the right to vote, and being steadfast not to remove or forget the ancient marker that was laid down by the shedding of the blood of these three martyrs. I just want to say that the current Supreme Court indeed has eaten up the foundation of the Voting Rights Act like termites. They're eating at the foundation of it. Every time they get into session, they find another way to erode it. I just want to say that as an African American, one of the things that I know for sure, since they have to talk about our voting rights and the Voting Rights Act every 25 years, is that it means that our citizenship and our right to vote and our freedom is not a permanent feature of our citizenship. It means that our freedom and our citizenship and our right to freedom is conditional on whoever the elected officials and politicians are who get in every 25 years or so, who review whether or not the enforcement provisions and so on should be enforced. So I will say that as we lift up the names of Schwerner, Goodman, and Chaney, who died in 1964, and they died at a time that changed what we know politics now to be, so that the Democrats became blacker and the Republicans became whatever it is that they have become. So here we are. That same year they did the 1964 Gulf of Tonkin resolution, and Lyndon Johnson lost the Democratic Party because of his support of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which led to the 1965 Voting Rights Act. So we are here today to commemorate this history, to relive this history, and to keep the hope of that history alive. And so then we will have this on display in the Family Life Center at the Allen Temple Baptist Church. So on behalf of our pastor, Dr. Jafford Smith Jr., our assistant pastor, Dr. Jacqueline Thompson, and our pastor emeritus, Dr. Jafford Smith Sr., we are honored to be a part of this resolution and this observance. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So moved. That's one for you.
Moved by Ms. Kaplan, seconded by Ms. McElhaney, and by consensus, we enthusiastically support that resolution.